Hi everyone, this is Bess McCarty, founder and coach with the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers, making network marketing simple. Topic today is how to turn objections into gold, which means into money. Objections are a very scary thing for a lot of network marketers, and the thing that can knock a lot of our listeners here or your team off the job. So really wanted to cover that. Actually, this today is number 4 of the 7 skills that Eric Worre mentions in his book, Go Pro, and he covers the 7 core skills in this book. And the 7 skills, again, are finding people to talk to, inviting them to look at your business, presenting, following up, signing them up, training them, and getting them to events. And so today is the number 4 of those skills, which is follow-up. And specifically on follow-up, I wanted to zero in on how to handle objections, because that includes that. Hi Jeff, hi Anthony, and hi Joanna. Welcome everybody from South Africa. Awesome. All right. And our agenda today is that I would like to cover how to handle objections, and then I want to give you a quick tip, a real quick fast start tip on doing that, and then I'm going to cover how to handle the top 19 objections, and then I'm going to bring my good friend Jeffrey David Gamble on the call in a little bit, and he is going to give us more tips because I want for us to hear what he has to share with us too. So hello Lynn, welcome. Welcome everybody. If you're watching the replay, I'd love if you type replay in the comments so that I can thank you for that. And if you'd like to type where you're from, I can welcome you from there. It's so cool that we can talk to people all over the world. Thank you for the likes and loves. I really appreciate that. And if you know somebody that, someone on your team or someone that has any trouble at all with handling objections, you might like to tag them and share, so I can thank you for that too. Great. Hey Michael. Hey, glad to see you. So objections, objections are truly a request for more information. So if we look at objections that way, they won't be so scary. I happen to love objections. I happen to get really excited by the challenge. And I hope that you too can fall in love with the challenge of helping people to get more information. Hello, Max. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. So if we realize that an objection is just somebody saying, help me, make the leap, help me to get past the blocks that are in my way, help me to think outside my box or my previous comfort zone, then we can give them more information. We need to see more for the person than they can see for themselves, and help lead them to that. Help them solve the blocks. And did you know that successful sales have twice as many objections as unsuccessful ones? So it's not a bad sign, really. Can we fall in love with the process, with these challenges that face us and the person, and help them over that? Help them. Because it's hard for people to make decisions. Welcome, Sharon. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for the likes and loves. Thank you for sharing or tagging people in the comments that you might know like to learn about this too. And I'd love if you type in where you're from. Thank you all for being here. So, a quickie solution that I have, generic to handle all objections, is if I would you. And you might have heard this before, but this is a quickie. If you can't think of how to handle that objection, just say, if I would you. And it's like this: if I could help you to solve that block that's in front of you, would you like to hear a little bit more about it? And it's important to say just a little bit more, so the person knows that they're not going to be opened up to an hour lecture or an avalanche of slideshows or whatever. You know, that you're not going to buttonhole them and hold them down and give them more than they want to hear. So welcome, Sharon from Las Vegas. Glad you're here. So if I could show you let's say the top objections that you're going to get are money, time. I'm not a salesperson, right? So if I could show you how to get the starter money, would you like to hear a little bit about it? If I could show you how to do this, no time. Okay, if I could show you how to do this in the course of what you're ready to do in your day, would you like to hear a little bit more about it? If I could show you how to find pockets of time or make this work in the time that you have, would you like to hear a little bit more about it? So that's the short version. Here's a slightly longer version of the same thing. And that is when you get an objection, that you listen completely and that you validate the person next. Say, great question, or wow, I felt the same way, or that makes sense. I don't blame you for asking that. Gee, I really relate to that. And then you can ask them questions. And then you can say the feel, felt, found. Like, wow, I know how you feel, worrying about not having enough time. I felt that way too. And this is what I found. And then you can tell them your story. And then you can also use the if I would you at the end of that. If I could show you how to do this in the time that you have now, would you like to hear a little bit about it? So that's the quickie answer. Second, I would like to share with you how to handle the top 19 objections that I've run into and that my students have run into in network marketing. And again, if you're hearing the replay, I'd love if you type in replay so that I can thank you for that. If you share with somebody, I'd like to thank you for that. So the top 19 objections, I'd like to cover a few of them, then bring on Jeff Gamble, and then we will open it up for questions and comments. So right now, you guys, why don't you type in the toughest objection that you have, and we'll go through that list and see how we can make sure everybody's questions get answered. Write in the toughest objection you've ever run across, or the one that you're scared to run across, or one that you just didn't know how to answer and you got kind of like, deer in the headlights when you heard that. Oh, okay. And so love if you type that in so we can help with that. And any tips that you have, I love if you type that in that we can share with people too. Okay, I'm going to put a link in the comments when we're done, called How to Handle the Top 19 Objections, an article that I wrote. Thank you for the likes and loves. I appreciate that, you guys. So I'm going to put a link in the comments. Meanwhile, I'm going to cover these real briefly here. Hi, Cash. Welcome. How are ya? Yeah, too busy, expensive. Right, Lynn. Thank you. Great. So actually, I'm going to cover some of those right now because money and time, you guys just mentioned time and money, and those are the two top ones, actually. One survey showed that time was the top obstacle for network marketers. So they would be for your prospects, too. So, time. Let's talk about that for a minute. Yep, pyramid scheme. Thank you, Cash. Glad to see you. Thank you, everybody here. Yes, and dang, welcome. Welcome, everybody. So, time. People don't have enough time. I was kind of astounded to find that I think the Nielsen research showed in 2014 that the average American watches 4 hours of TV a day. So right there is a pocket of time that could be transformed into a money-making business. But let's say a person's really, really busy. I suggest that besides using the generic method that I already mentioned, that you could help the person to offer to help the person prioritize, to focus, to set timers, like with social media. That's really big for me. That's my biggest distraction. And how to find pockets of time while they're waiting for somebody to use that time. And being a single mom, I have a tip for moms about time. I had a teenager, my neighborhood teenager and family friend would come over, and I would pay him per hour to play with my 2-year-old son while I did my business. So that gave me some little pockets of time. And other mothers have traded babysitting with each other so they can free up a few hours a week here or there. So the kids all get together and they get to play, and that gives the mom a few hours of a time that they can work on their business. Welcome, Travis. Well, glad you're here. So that's a couple of ideas about time. And for money, oh my goodness, that, time and money are never really the real reasons people can't do this business. It's because there's always a way to overcome this. There's always a way to find the time and money to do it. So they're never really the reason. There's so many answers to the money thing. It's amazing. But one of them is to pre-sell. If the person wants money for their starter kit, you can help them gather their customers and collect their orders and use that money to get their starter kit. So that's cool. That's what Girl Scouts do, right? Another one is that people can save the money. Another one is that they can cut expenses, like drink their coffee at home or make their meals at home rather than eating out for a few months. They can get rid of their TV subscription, turn that into business time. They can give up smoking or maybe use their vacation money. I know one man started his network marketing business with an old car that he treasured, and he sold it, and it kicked off his business. And I bet he can afford to buy a Mercedes now that he did that. Another young person that I know mowed lawns and did housework for people, or washed windows to get the startup money for her business. You can also sell things that are around the house or hold a garage sale. So those are all ways you can always get the money. There's money out there, you guys. There's always a way to get the money, and if a teenager can gather the money, or anyone can, I think you can get the money for your starter kit. Kick off your business. Another common objection is I'm not a salesman. So I love being a teacher myself. I love to share with people that network marketing is more about education than sales. And that teachers actually make better network marketers than salespeople do, because they connect with people and they like to educate until they are informed enough to make a decision whether they want to join. They want to buy your product or join your business. Another objection is this a scam? Is this a pyramid scheme? And I like to show people, I'm not in a company myself, of course I don't prospect, but I do tell people about network marketing. And if they say, well, isn't that a scam? I say, this is one of the most respected businesses in the world. And if I could show you how this is, and it's validated by some of the most well-known people in the world, would you like to hear a little bit about it? And then I send them a little 7-minute short generic video that I have made by my friend Professor David Frost that has converted people to lovers of network marketing. And I'll post that video for you too in the comments. It's a 7-minute free generic one, no opt-in needed, and you can use it for your prospecting. Another answer that is good when people ask, is this a pyramid scheme, is no. Why do you ask that? Because you want to hear what's behind that, right? So that you can address it. Yes. And Joanna says, use the example, if you land in jail, you need $200 bail money. You would make that. You would round up the money, wouldn't you? You'd get the money, whether you borrowed it or whatever. And borrowing would be my last option that I recommend for people, because there's so many ways to make it. But I would borrow it and pay it back. If I couldn't find any other option, definitely it would be worth borrowing it, and sell enough product in the first month to pay the person back. So thank you, Joanna, for your question. Everybody else have objections, please type them in, and Jeff and I will get to them. Jeff is going to come on in just a minute here. What if the person says, I want to think about it? I like to say, well, what do you need to know if this is right for you? Or we could test drive, if I could show you how to test drive this without a risk and try it out, would you like to do that? And if they say, well, I have to talk to my spouse about this, and I would say, great. Let's all get together with coffee or a 3-way call or something like that, and go over any questions, so that way you can include them. Okay, there are some more, but so that you guys get another viewpoint, I'm going to bring my good friend Jeff Gamble on, and let's see how I can do that. Jeff, Guest requests. I'm trying to add. It won't let me add. Allow your guests to request. Yep. Jeff, can you request? I can't find the ad there. There it is. Got it. Wants to be in your video. Approve. Okay. Yay. Okay. Did over 500 people frontline in network marketing, and he's built 2 teams of over 5,000 people, and his teams have produced over 10 million in sales. So I thought we would like to also hear from him about how to handle objections. And I think he's coming on right now. And he's a wonderful friend and teacher to help people in network marketing. So whenever I ask him, he comes on to these calls. You guys love him. You love his content. And welcome, Jeff.
Welcome. How are you?
Great.
So far.
Great. Let's see if your volume's good here. Maybe
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it could be a little louder.
Hold on,
if you can.
Get out the trusted headset.
Great. Jeff's best day in network marketing was $3,000 of sales. He has a lot of great tips to share with us. A lot of experience.
How about that?
Perfect.
There
awesome.
We go.
Awesome. So, Jeff, before I go into, Jeff has agreed to let me throw objections at him and just see what comes up here. Before we do you have anything to add or comment on of what we've covered so far?
Just 2 things. Number 1, try to handle objections up front. A lot of people don't realize that if you get experience doing this, a lot of the objections you can actually handle before you actually sit down. 2 ways. First of all, pre-qualifying people that you're going to sit down with. And then the second way is to actually handle the objections inside of your presentation. And it's with practice that'll eventually come. But for those of you who are more experienced, you'll kind of get how that works.
Okay. We have a question from Dang Tran from Vietnam.
Yep.
I'm from Vietnam. How to sponsor, prospect in cold market, especially in Facebook, Instagram.
It's just like anything. Build relationships. I think 2 things. Number 1, start linking up with people that you have things in common with. So, for instance, I like UFC. So, when I grew up, I didn't like sports that were non-contact. So, I liked contact-based sports. So if you like UFC, you join pages that have other UFC people on it, and that's how you start the conversations. Is you start conversations with things that you have in common with other people. If you're into motorcycles, if you're into bird watching, if you're into weightlifting or working out, go join those type of pages. And your objective, number 1, is to make friends, and number 2 is then to present until you meet a bunch of people. Now that takes some time. Sometimes I'm able to connect with somebody, and in one conversation, I'm able to take it from, hi, how are you? Weightlifting, this, that, and the other, what do you do? And I use form or forward as the line of questioning, but that's the line of questioning that I start with everybody. And then when the door opens, and what I mean by when the door opens, it's a judgment call when you think you've connected with that person enough to move to the, do me a favor, I want to share with you what we're doing.
Thank you. And welcome, Michael. And continue typing in your questions, suggestions, insights, and we'll see if we can cover the questions. Right now, I'm going to, especially about objections, but it could be about your network marketing business too. So right now, I'd just like to throw some objections at Jeff, like if I'm the prospect and he's, tell me about this business, and I go, well, what is it?
What I would say is do you have, 15 minutes where I can go through the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would actually do the 10-minute presentation. My rule of thumb is if I can't present the whole thing, I present nothing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And how about How much money do you make?
It's been different. What I would ask is do you want to know what I'm making now, or do you want to know what I made in the beginning when I didn't know what I was doing? And by asking that question, I can tell you my story of, how I learned this and when I made the breakthrough. Because for me, I started without any skills, and I didn't really have a network. I mean, I started when I was 17. So there were three things I didn't have. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any transportation or communication, and I had no network of people to talk to. So everything I built was through cold market, and that takes time.
Hmm. Okay. And gee, I don't know anyone to talk to.
Okay, well, that's great because when you get into real estate, or when you get into the mortgage business, or when you get into any profession, most people don't have that network to go talk to right away. So what I found that's worked best is actually to work based on leads. So realtors work off of leads, mortgage people work off of leads, and ironically, even networkers work off of leads. If I could show you a lead program where basically the people were already looking for something, would you be open to looking at how we could do that?
Okay. I've heard of these things, and only the people at the top make the money.
That's true. The people at the top usually do make the money. The owners of most companies make the most money. But the interesting thing in sales is that the number one person last year in Keller Williams has been there for quite a while. They made over $10 million. Just met a lady the other day. She earns over $100,000 a month with a company she's been with only 3 years, and the company's 10 years old. So what we found is that yes, there are people at the top who make an enormous amount of money, but the nice thing is you're able to build your network of people. What kind of income are you looking for? Because do you necessarily want the responsibility and/or the schedule of somebody who earns $1 million a month? Most people don't. If you want to earn 100,000, you really don't have to be at the top. There's tons of people who make 100 grand just screwing around.
Okay, thank you. Um, Robert Hollis had an answer to that that was kind of cute. He goes, "Yeah, and I'm that guy." I'm at
Right.
the top. Although everybody has this equal opportunity, a lot of people even surpass their upline. Uh, so, and Dong has a question. My prospect said that he has to build his core career and focus on that, so he doesn't want to do network marketing. What should I tell him?
I would say go focus on your career, and if you can refer me anyone, great. Do you know anybody who you know wants to make money outside of their career? Because that's who I'm looking for.
Hmm. Yes. And I have an actual story of someone who said that their neighbor told them that, and then soon after that they lost their job.
Yeah.
So I like to tell that story that a lot of people, a lot of professionals, doctors, lawyers, and everybody, they have a backup plan. They have a plan B. Uh, but of course, it is their choice. Um, but there's good reason why professionals who have a very good career do have a plan B. And hello, Doc, welcome. Okay. Um, I don't want to bug my friends and family with this stuff.
Awesome. Don't. I would suggest not. Um, the last I checked, there's just a little over 7 billion people on the planet. So you could build to $1 million a day and never talk to your family. I would say don't do that.
Okay, welcome, Josh. And again, if anybody's watching the replay, I love if you type in replay. And Dong says thanks. Did that answer it? Good.
Awesome.
Okay. Um, I tried
What
this.
else?
Another objection. I tried this. It doesn't work.
Oh, okay. Can you give me your experience? Because what I found is, I tried it in the beginning too, but I found I didn't really do all the things necessary. Can I ask you 10 questions? And if you can answer yes to all those, I would actually believe you tried it. The first question is have you presented to over 100 people? And most people right there, they say no. And I was like, what if, I think maybe you got trained differently. Would you be open to, doing it through somebody who is a professional? Did you have training? Did you have a mentor? Most people don't. So the majority of the time when people say that to me, what I find is they didn't have any help. So that's the number one thing. I have a line of questioning that I'll ask them. to kind of find out if they had any help. Well, did you present to this many people? No. Did you have help doing this? No. Did you ever do this? Did you ever actually physically write a list of the 100 people and present to all of them? No. Did you ever learn how to cold? No. Did you ever go to a national convention? No. So basically what you're telling me is you spent $200 signed up and then never looked at it again. I'm like, that's not trying it.
Yeah, I talked to, 10 people and they all said no, So I had to
Awesome.
give up.
Was that like in one day, or did you do that over your whole career?
That was in a week.
In a week, you talked to 10 whole people in a week. Oh, okay, cool. I found that it takes roughly 100 people to kind of get it down. So 10 people is a great start. You actually talk to about 9 more people than the average person does. But we found it takes about 100. I'd really like to know what you said to them or what your presentation was. Because what I've found is the words you use produce certain results. And most people are not using the right words to do this. Just like, I related a lot to dating. And it was funny because I was just having a conversation with a girl online who made a comment about dating here, and I was like, well, where, I finally looked up like where she's located. I was like, well, based on where you're located, I understand the problems you're having. I was like, small city, small town, small network. Can I make a suggestion? She's like, sure. I was like, start pre-qualifying before you go on dates. She had some really bad experiences. So I was like, pre-qualify people. That's one thing that I started learning how to do that solved the majority of these issues. When you start pre-qualifying people, it gets so much easier to do this.
Okay, and Michael Murphy says, I have a downline who's struggling and stuck and told me it's a tough business to learn and it takes too long before she'll actually make money. How would you answer that?
Okay. I would ask her if she went to college and has a degree. Most people, they go to college for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. The average 4-year degree now takes 5 years. And I'm like, how much money did you make when you were in school? And people are like, well, I didn't make anything. I said, well, how much money did you make the day you got out of school? Well, I didn't make anything. How long did it take you to find your first job, first good paying job? Some people are like, well, I still haven't found a good paying job. I'm like, how long has it been since you graduated? 20 years. I'm like, but you want this to work in a week? I'm like, does that even make sense? I relate a lot to, working out. I said, if you went to the gym 3 times over 3 months, would you expect to lose weight? Most people are like, no. I'm like, well, that's what you just did with your business, but you're expecting to make money. How the hell is that supposed to work out? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And of course, be sure to give them the training so they can have some fast starts. And
Yeah.
actually, Michael, I would recommend that you get a book that Jeff and I both contributed to called Always Get a Yes. I'll put the link in the comments. If I had a downline who was struggling like that and stuck, I would give that person a fast start with the fast script that's in that book. It's never gotten a no, the script, so it's really good. And if she texts 10 people, she'll likely get a customer or 2 or a distributor or 2 out of that. So if you work with her, learn this method and work with her on it, I think it will help. And Michael says, great tips. Good questions, you guys. Okay.
And if I can,
another challenge. Go ahead.
Yep. Oh, I was going to say, if I can, before we go any further, I'm being honest, but I'm also kind of being funny. I most of what I say, it really depends on who I'm talking to. And what I mean by that is there's 4 personality types. So one of the first things I'll do before I start answering these questions and these objections, I always find out who I'm talking to. And what I mean by who I'm talking to is what is their dominant personality? How are they perceiving the information that I'm giving? With certain people, you can challenge them. With certain people, you can friend them. And by the friendship alone, they will end up building the business. By some people, you have to make it fun, or you have to make it interesting and entertaining. In reality, you have to make it a game to them. Like, hey, let's make this a game. This is not serious. This is not something to like freak out about. We're just going to make it a game. It's just how many people, and I go to a funny scene in the movie Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo, Nemo and Dory basically find themselves in a bunch of jellyfish, knowing that if they end up, touching the jellyfish, that they're going to get zapped and that's the end of it. So he makes it a game. He's like, what we're going to do is we're going to bounce off the top of it. So the game is it's a race to get to the other side. We bounce off the top of all these things, so the objective is how many people we can contact. I use this a lot with people who are struggling with the idea that they've talked to people and they haven't gotten the result they want, meaning they haven't sponsored people. A lot of people think they're going to go out and they're going to talk to 3 people and they're going to get 2 people in instantly. And I'll tell you, there's basically nobody on the planet that does that. I mean, there may be a few people just out of relationship based that they're able to do that with, but the average person, and I'm talking about 100 people signing up in network marketing, for those who don't know this, if 100 people sign up in network marketing and 100 people go out and show 15 people the presentation, not all of them are going to get somebody right off the first 15. Some of them will, but the percentage is probably less than 50. By the time you've presented to 30 people, 40 people, the percentages keep going up. But what I've found, for all 100 people to actually recruit somebody, it's going to take 100 presentations. For some people, they have to go through 99 presentations to get to the 100th one. Sometimes because they have to get outside their network. Sometimes it's, because it takes them that long to learn some of the skill-based to open the door the right way. And I mean by open the door is just to be able to open the opportunity to somebody the right way, where it doesn't come across wrong. I don't know what the word is. So it doesn't come across sleazy. It comes across like a business rather than, or maybe an opportunity to work, commission, rather than, oh my gosh, I saw this great thing. My friend has this stuff in his trunk that he sold and he made a bunch of money and now he drives, a Mercedes and lives in this great area. Well, I mean, sometimes when we're out describing our businesses and we're pitching our businesses, it does sound a lot like you're selling drugs out of your trunk. Make sure that when you're presenting this stuff, that you come across the right way. And the only way you're going to know to do that is actually have a coach or a mentor, whether in the business or outside the business. I don't care where you find them, but you have to find that person where you can actually have them listen to you and go, does this sound right? Because sometimes I'll listen to people pitching. I love to go to Starbucks and watch people do this and watch the pitch and the presentation. And sometimes it's awful. I mean, sometimes it's entertaining, but it's awful. And I always try, if I hear it and I see it, I always try to give a tip. I was like, what you said and what you thought they heard is not the same thing. And I kind of break it down by the words. And I always use this example when I'm training in a group. And I'll do this with everybody that's on Facebook Live or watching this on the replay. If I say the word Ferrari right now, what color do you think of? And everybody usually gives a color of one of 3 colors from what I found. And I said, but what if I was talking about the symbol on the back? I'm like, do you even know what that symbol is? And most people don't know what the symbol is. I said, do you know what color that symbol usually is on the car? And most people don't know the color either. And what that represents is people think in pictures, typically. So when you're saying these words, people are picturing things in their head, regardless if they're visual, regardless if they're auditory, regardless if they're kinesthetic, which is another one of the 3 kinds of categories that you want to understand about people. How do they learn? How do they view things? How do they perceive the information you're giving? So, 1, know their personality. 2, know kind of what they're picturing. And then 3, solve a lot of this in your presentation. How do you do that? It takes time. You have to learn this stuff first. So that's just some tips to kind of, this may be why you're struggling, is if your personality is one type of personality and the people you're contacting is of a different personality and you're presenting it based on how you see it, based on how you feel, based on what you want to get out of it, what you may be doing is you may be missing the other 80% you're presenting to. How to appeal to others.
Thank you. It's an art. Welcome, Dana. Welcome,
Yep.
Cheryl. Glad you're here. You know someone who can who would like to learn how to handle objections so they're not scared of them, so it doesn't stop them from making their calls. Love if you tag them in the comments so I can thank you for sharing. Any other questions that are coming up? Questions about objections that you'd like us to cover? What's your toughest objection? The one that you're scared to get? The one that you didn't know what to say to answer? How about, I could get this cheaper.
I'm sure you could. You know, Amazon is awesome. eBay's awesome. Let me ask you, has either one of them ever sent you a check? Do you have the ability to build an income from that? Or are you just able to get it at a discount? So, you know, and this depends on what you're doing. Is your objective sales, or is your objective to build a network? And, you know, this is a question, this is one of my first questions when people start asking me for help inside of direct sales. That's the first question I ask. I said, what are you doing? Are you trying to sell product, or are you trying to recruit people and build a team and build an income? Which one is it? Because the reason you're going to get that objection most of the time is simply because they're perceiving it as they're just selling product. Now you want to, you know, at least have a half a dozen things, reasons why your product is at least, you know, competitive in the market, and then price wise.
Mm-hmm. And if you're giving them a chance to buy at wholesale, so
Yep.
yeah,
And in some cases, some
and if
companies
it's
don't
a
have wholesale.
if it's that exact product. If not, then you know the quality might not be the same. What if somebody said, "Well, there's a
Correct.
lot of competition out there."
I'd say awesome. Can you introduce me to them?
I know one fellow said, "I love competition. It motivates me. How about you?" But
That's a good one too.
yeah, there's actually so many people that haven't heard of your product yet, or even of network marketing yet.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys. Any other questions, insights, objections we haven't covered? We've covered about 20 of them today. Max says he waves. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the likes and loves and for sharing this. I will post about an article about how to handle the top 19 objections individually, but remember that generic way. You can always say, you know, a quickie, if I could show you how to find the time, if I could show you how to find the money, if I could show you how this is a respected business, not a pyramid scheme. Would you like to hear a little bit more about it? If I could show you how to do this in a way that people love hearing from you, hearing about this, and they want to hear what you have. Would you like to know a little bit more about it? You just turn that objection around. So remember that as a generic one, but I will post the article about the top 19 objections. And
Yep.
guess what? Jeff Gamble and I are going to be leading some MLM lunchtime leadership shows, some live Facebook shows every lunchtime coming up in a couple of weeks. So we'd love to invite you to those. And we have a Facebook group for this called the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. And if you would like to be invited to this group and added to this group, just type MLS in the comments and we can get you into that group. So we'd love to have you and love to have you on the upcoming shows. We'll let you know when they're starting. Meanwhile, every Tuesday at 2 p.m., I'm going to be handling it is a Facebook Live that I do here. We're going to be, next Tuesday is going to cover the 5th skill, which is closing. And I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite closers. And I've invited Jeff to come back and speak together on that too. So, okay, Michael Murphy got an MLS typed in. Anybody else
Awesome.
would like to join that group? Just type MLS. Okay, any closing comments or questions from anyone? Jeff, thank you so much for taking your time out of all of the tremendous work that you're doing and all the people that you're helping, the business that you're building, to be here with us on these calls, on these shows. And thank you for your insights, which are different than just mine are. So I like that people can hear from you too. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. It's been
We'll
awesome to collaborate. And guys, this is something you can learn. That's just my final note is you can learn all this stuff. It's just having all the conversations with people, but you're going to learn it faster and you're going to learn it easier if you watch someone else do it. Go find a mentor, you know, that you can follow, go to lunch with, watch them present, watch them do this. That's the easiest way to learn, is just, you know, be sitting with somebody who's doing it.
Yeah, get the help. Shorten your learning curve. Make it easier for yourself because people are learning fast nowadays. So um, get success fast, you guys, because you can. Thank you. We hope to help you to do that. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.